So have you ever wondered what were the 5 worst Lego titles ever? Today, we're going to go on ahead and find out. My name is Blitzwinger, ladies and gentlemen. Finally, I'm putting together this top 5 video that you guys have been on the lookout for, but it's predominantly because I had a lot of games to play, including this fantastic title, which is the sponsor of today's video, and that is Raid Shadow Legends. Now, of course, they have sponsored some videos before, so huge thank you to Raid Shadow Legends, as well as you guys for going on ahead and supporting the channel sponsors. But let's discuss what Raid Shadow Legends has been up to, because there's a ton of new stuff. All right, so here we are inside of Raid Shadow Legends, and we're going to kick things off with one of my favorite ways, and that is to head over to the portal and get ourselves a brand new champion. Let's open up this crystal and let's see what we end up with. Ooh, okay. So here is the Headsman. This is a level 1 3-star character. Looking pretty cool. I like the ability showcase right there in the corner. You can see all of the different moves that, of course, will get more powerful as we level on up and get a more powerful version of this character. But let's back out and let's get to my personal favorite way of getting these new characters leveled up, and that is to head over to the campaign, because I've found that to be the most successful way to get my new characters caught back up with the characters that have been playing as for a little while. So let's see how well we can do in this stage. Here comes the Headsman. Come on, do some. Nice. Okay, not bad, not bad. Considering the level discrepancy there, the Headsman did very, very well. I mean, we're talking about a 6-level difference there between him and the... Okay, that was not good. Okay, so I might have jumped into the deep end waters here with a brand new character. Fortunately enough, we have our other characters that can carry us. But, of course, if you want to go on ahead and make sure that your newer characters are able to tank through these battles, the wonderful thing is that you can go back through the chapters that you've already completed and make sure that they slowly but surely rise up through the ranks, so that then you can go on ahead and take on those more difficult missions further along in the pretty fantastic campaign that Raid Shadow Legends offers. All right, let's see if we can blast these guys. We probably should get rid of these Banshees first, because they will cast some spells. All right, sweet. We're popping off. Good work, good work. And with that in mind, it looks like that will be another great success. And as you can see, leveling up is really the name of the game. And that is awesome. We did go on ahead and get ourselves some lovely progress. And as if there wasn't enough stuff to do inside Raid Shadow Legends, they actually dropped a huge new update, which has been an upgrade to the Doom Tower mode. And this Doom Tower update actually introduces 2 brand new bosses to take on: Astranix the Dark Fae and Bommel the Dreadhorn, along with a new enemy balance for the tower floors to keep things fresh, as well as new secret rooms to discover. And the most exciting element is, of course, brand new artifact sets. Plus, along with that Doom Tower update, they're actually hosting a bunch of events and tournaments. And my personal favorite is actually the Super Raid. And the reason why it's my personal favorite is because it doubles up your rewards as you complete them. The reason why that's awesome is that, again, if you've ever thought about diving into Raid Shadow Legends, this is a perfect time to do so, because you'll be able to get caught up with a lot of the players who have been playing, the millions of players that have been playing for quite a long time. So it's a lovely way to go on ahead and get caught up with the rest of your friends. Because the folks at Raid Shadow Legends are awesome, I did go on ahead and team up with them so that you can go on ahead and not just dive into the game, but you can get a pretty huge head start. Hit the link in the description or scan the QR code that you see right now, and new players will get the champion known as Chonaru, who is amazing in the Doom Tower. So again, you can apply that character to that new update that is within the game. You're also going to get 200,000 silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard, so that you can summon an awesome champion right as you get into the game. And in addition to that, another quick heads up to you: make sure that you are checking the inbox for the next 30 days after you've dove into Raid Shadow Legends, because you will be getting daily rewards on there as well. Once again, huge thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring today's video. And of course, most importantly, huge thank you to you guys for going on ahead and checking out Raid Shadow Legends and supporting the channel. Alrighty, Roo, guys, so let's kick things off with number 5, and it is going to get controversial up in here right off the bat, because number 5 is Lego Hobbit. Calm down. put down the pitchforks, relax. Let me explain myself. So first and foremost, I have a massive bias against just the fantasy genre. I'm not a huge fan of it. I don't know why. I know people are going to say, well, that's what most of superheroes is, or things like that. I don't know why. I've just never been a huge fan of fantasy as a genre as a whole, particularly Lord of the Rings, and even more particularly Hobbit. I think out of all the worlds that we got to explore in Lego form, whether it be Marvel, DC, Star Wars, Indiana Jones, Harry Potter, the different movie-based games, I really think that this is the one that I liked the least. There was just nothing really compelling to me within the story, the characters, the setting. I really couldn't really attach myself to any element of the game. In fact, one of the big things that I did go on ahead and give a lot of weight to is that I went back through all the Lego games that I've played, which is all of the main series ones. And I thought to myself, okay, what are the memorable things about this? Like, do I remember certain moments? Do I remember elements of the gameplay? Do I remember levels? Do I remember specific cutscenes? Maybe a certain really funny thing. With Lego Hobbit, literally the one thing that I do remember is a pretty clever crafting system that unfortunately has never been re-implemented in any other Lego title. That's the only thing that I could like attribute to Lego Hobbit as an interesting element. I didn't find the characters all that interesting. Again, that's a personal preference thing. I know some people really love fantasy, and so I'm sure that this game maybe resonated with you more, particularly if you liked the Lego Hobbit franchise, which I think is a huge element in general with Lego games, is that because they, generally speaking, tend to go on ahead and be dependent on other franchises, with the exception of things like Lego City Undercover. Most of the time, a huge factor of whether or not you enjoy a Lego game will be attributed to the fact as to whether or not you like the property that is being utilized for that particular title. And so because I don't have a huge affinity for Hobbit or for the Lord of the Rings, this is the one that lands at number 5. Again, doesn't mean it's a terrible game. It just means that on my list, it's the fifth worst one that I've ever played. At number 4, ladies and gentlemen, we move right along to a game that is worse than Lego Hobbit, and that is the Lego Movie video game. Let me clarify. The first Lego Movie video game. Will the second one appear on this list? I don't know. You're going to have to stick around and see. But for me personally, the Lego Movie video game, again, suffers from a similar-ish thing as the Hobbit does, in the sense that there's not a lot that's memorable, because most of the moments that are memorable are directly copied from the movie. And so because of that, I don't know how much the video game element of the Lego Movie video game adds to the experience, because the Lego Movie is an excellent movie. And because of that, it has a lot of great jokes. It has a lot of great ideas. And we all know how highly praised that particular film is. And so you have something that is based on that movie. And so it's implementing a lot of those ideas in a very clever way. There's no doubt about that. And it does that. It does a good job of recreating the film in a more interactive manner. But the issue is that it doesn't really do anything to earn extra bonus points for being a game. To me, I think you could watch the movie, which will be far quicker than the campaign, and you can experience the best that that particular game has to offer just by watching the movie. And so because of that, it lands in number 4. Again, not a particularly stellar execution for a video game. It does a good job of recreating the good ideas of the movie, but doesn't really add anything to it. And we move along to number 3, which is actually the Lego game that I have finished most recently on the channel, and that is Lego Indiana Jones 2, The Adventure Continues. Boy, oh boy. I remember diving into this game with the worst possible expectations, because I've heard many of people say that this is the worst Lego game ever made. It's terrible. It's awful. It does nothing interesting. And I was, at least at the start, a little bit surprised, because when I started playing, I was like, this is not that bad. Why were people complaining? But the further along I went in the game, I realized the game got worse and worse and worse. The driving controls in this game make you want to take your controller and hit it with a Hadouken karate chop in half, because it is so infuriating, and you have to do a lot of driving challenges. The camera angle on many of the different flying races or the vehicle races is a nightmare. The lack of cohesive elements between the different components is insane. It literally feels like an amalgamation of a bunch of random Indiana Jones starring games instead of one cohesive title. Like, there is nothing that gives you a through line between, like, let's say when you're playing the hub world for the Raiders of the Lost Ark or the Temple of Doom or the Last Crusade or the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It all feels like there's nothing that matters between them. It just feels like random little levels of gameplay that in no way, shape, or form tie between one another. And then within the actual hub worlds, like even in the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the entirety, like the narrative of and the attention to detail in terms of story was pretty much, oh, here's a skull that Indiana Jones is chasing. Yep, that's the story. Like, it just felt so uninspired. It really, really genuinely, you could make a very strong case for this being the worst Lego game. And I know that that's probably surprising considering it's in third place. But to me personally, the redeeming qualities of this game is the fact that it does have pretty cool level builder inside of it. It's a little bit clunky, but I do like the idea of it actually being in the game. I think that that's a really clever notion. And in addition to that, I think the expectations for Lego Indiana Jones 2 were not that great. Like, I don't think anybody going into Lego Indiana Jones 2 was like, oh boy, look at that, they made another Lego Indiana Jones game that's really going to focus on the worst Indiana Jones movie. By far, everybody can agree that the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull is the worst one of the bunch. Many people don't even want to account for it to be part of the Indiana Jones franchise. So I think that that almost gives it a little bit of forgiveness in my mind, is that I just did not even have expectations for it. Like, it was so confusing as to why this game would even be created for just one additional game. When you already had Lego Indiana Jones 1, it felt like this was just a quick cash grab to try to do almost like, hey, let's take something that probably could have been a DLC for the original game, like just a big expansion pack that you could go on ahead and sell as something that is an add-on to the original Lego Indiana Jones game that would maybe focus on just the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. But no, instead, let's go on ahead and sell this as a full new release. And so it just feels really lame. There's really no inspired elements to it. It's very weirdly structured. Like, I can't name any other Lego game. Like, here's a perfect example. This is the only Lego game that has this like weird count for the stud multiplier. Every other game, I think it's 3,840, I think, is the multiplier that you usually typically can reach for your stud multiplier. Here, it's like some obscure number. I don't remember exactly what it was. But I think that that's just a perfect example to show you that it's just such a oddball release in the catalog of the Lego games that there's very few elements here that are really fun or well done. Again, the only other thing that keeps it from going further up on the list as far as worst Lego titles is the fact that it has that creator inside the game, which I think is actually a really clever idea. I'd love to see that implemented further. It's almost like the first take on Lego Worlds, kind of. And then the other thing that I would give it a little bit of slack for is actually some of the puzzle design, because some of the puzzle design in this game, particularly during boss fights, was actually quite clever. And again, would be something that would be cool if they extracted and implemented in other Lego titles down the line. And in number 2, this is probably going to be another somewhat controversial one, especially based on the previous one that I just named, and that is Lego Incredibles. Now, I don't particularly think that Lego Incredibles is necessarily a worse game than Lego Indiana Jones 2. Of course, it has the benefit of the fact that it was released later than Lego Indiana Jones 2 did. And so obviously it has some more of the modern implementations of Lego titles in terms of being able to pick up or have a selection of the entire character grid, a much larger hub world, things like that definitely benefited. And that's why I really did go back and forth between deciding to put Lego Indiana Jones 2 in second worst game or third. But the big thing that kind of swayed me to make it actually to make Lego Incredibles the second worst one is the fact that there's so much potential with this one. This is the one that I think, even though it's titled Lego Incredibles, it features a lot of Pixar characters. It features a lot of Disney characters. And so I think going into it, a lot of us were like, oh my goodness, this is going to be an insane insanely awesome idea. To make a Lego game based on the Pixar universe is kind of a no-brainer. It's like a marriage made in heaven. Like it really just makes sense. The properties, the ideas that they could pull off are so awesome. But then the problem is that the execution was very lackluster. The fact that the game really did only focus on the Incredibles was a huge disappointment. The actual level design was not terrible, but it was very mediocre. Like, it didn't really do anything interesting or unique. The roster of characters, while again was really cool, the problem was that it made you think about, oh my goodness, how much better could this have been if they actually implemented this to be just Lego Pixar, or even if they still wanted to go with the name of Lego Incredibles, just really incorporate those other characters like Lightning McQueen and a bunch of the other characters that appear in the game, like from Toy Story, etc., to implement them more into the story, whether it be through the campaign levels or maybe extra side quests, side missions, bonus levels. I just think that the potential of this game, between how high the potential was and then what we got, that disappointment is so great that to me, it puts it into second place. Again, I agree that you could make the case that Lego Indiana Jones objectively, not even subjectively, objectively is a worse game. But I believe personally, to me, Lego Incredibles really flounders, and the potential of having access to that IP and then not being able to like knock it out of the park, I think was a huge error, because I think that Lego Incredibles could have arguably been one of the very best Lego games ever made. And finally, in number 1, it is going to be another Lego Movie video game. This time, it's the second one. I honestly think that the Lego Movie video game number 2, or the second one, is a perfect example of all of the things that we've talked about up until this point, but kind of getting the worst of everything. It's a game that doesn't really do anything exciting, anything new. It feels like the biggest like cash grab out of all of this entire bunch. I mean, Lego Incredibles suffered a little bit of that as well, trying to tie into the Incredibles 2 movie release. And so did a lot of these other ones. Obviously, Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out, so they were like, let's make another Lego Indiana Jones game. So it's a common trend across all of this entire list. But this one is really the biggest offender as far as that is concerned. It just doesn't seem to do anything new, anything exciting. The roster is underwhelming. The vehicles are underwhelming. The hub worlds are underwhelming. Technically, it had a lot of glitches and problems. It feels very uninspired. It feels like the quickest turnaround for a Lego game. There's just really nothing that I could look to and be like, oh, remember Lego Movie video game 2? It had, and then I just go blank, because I can't name anything. Like, at least with the Lego Movie, the first one, the first game, I could name the story, like the campaign, because it was really cool and it built on, I mean, it didn't really build on the movie, but it did a good job of recreating the story of the movie. And since the movie was so great, again, it's fun to go on ahead and enjoy that story in an interactive form. With the Lego Movie 2, I didn't think it was as good as the first one, and so it had that problem going for it. But then even their ability of recreating that story, I felt like they missed a lot of the things that made the movie work. They kind of skimped over, or they really didn't give the attention that they did in the first one. Like, the first Lego Movie video game did a much better job of recreating the movie. It did a better job of taking the best parts of the movie and bringing them in and being like, okay, we know the key moments, the key beats of the story that people really like. Whereas with the second one, it really felt like they kind of missed a lot of times. And some of the moments that maybe would have been fun to play through, they were actually just either like a little throwaway moment, a cutscene, whatever it might be. They became insignificant to the actual experience. And there you have it, guys. Those were the top 5 worst Lego games that I have ever played. Let me know what your list looks like. And of course, you can go on ahead and roast my list down in the comment section below. Once again, huge shout out to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring the video, guys. Don't forget to go on ahead and check out Raid with the link at the top of the description. In addition to that, of course, guys, you can support the channel by hitting the thumbs up button and subscribing. Thank you so very much for watching. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace out.